heard someone whisper my name from the staircase, and I knew I shouldn't turn around. The house was dark, except for the Christmas tree lights blinking slowly behind me. Red, green, red again. Shh. The whisper came a second time, closer now, like someone testing how brave I was. My stomach tightened, and my hand froze halfway to the light switch. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. I told myself it was just the house settling. Old homes make sounds in winter. But that excuse fell apart. The moment I heard a soft creak on the third step, someone was standing there. I could feel it. I didn't understand why my heart was pounding so hard yet, but I was already backing away. I was home alone that night. Or at least, I was supposed to be. My parents were visiting relatives out of town, and I'd insisted on staying back to enjoy a quiet Christmas Eve by myself. The kind of night people say feels peaceful. It didn't feel peaceful anymore. Another step creaked. Then it stopped, too, suddenly. I stood there, listening. No breathing, no movement, just the faint hum of the heater and the soft crackle of wrapping paper near the tree. I told myself not to look. Looking would make it real, but the silence dragged on, heavy and thick, until I felt like I might choke on it. I'm just hearing things, I whispered, mostly to convince myself. That's when I saw it. A shadow shifted on the wall near the staircase. Not big, not threatening. At first glance, just wrong. It moved against the light, not with it. My mouth went dry. I took a step back, and my heel bumped into a gift box, knocking it over. The sound echoed far too loud. The shadow moved again, closer. I should have run. I know that now. But instead, I stood there, staring, waiting for something, anything to make sense. The hesitation was my first mistake, because a child's voice spoke from the darkness. Why did you stop decorating? My breath caught in my throat. It was soft, calm, like the question itself was innocent. But there were no children in the house, none anywhere nearby. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't heard footsteps until now. "Hi, I'm almost done," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. Silence again, then a faint giggle. I didn't understand why that sound made my skin crawl, but every instinct in my body screamed that I was being tested, watched, judged. The Christmas lights flickered, once, twice. Then they went out. The room plunged into darkness, and I felt something brush past my arm. Cold, too cold to be air. I spun around, heart racing, but there was nothing there. Just the staircase, empty. I stood in the dark for a long moment, barely breathing, waiting for something else to happen. And that's when I realized the whisper hadn't come from the stairs anymore. It was right behind me. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My voice was gone. All I could do was stand there, frozen, as the tree lights flickered back on, revealing the room exactly as it had been before. Empty, no shadow, no child, no footsteps. I spent the rest of the night with every light on, sitting on the couch, pretending nothing had happened. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. And when my parents came back the next morning, I didn't tell them everything. I just told them I'd had a bad feeling, because when I went to pick up the fallen gift box, Kai noticed something that still keeps me awake every Christmas. Small footprints, leading up the staircase, and none coming back down. The knocking started while I was wrapping the last present, sharp and sudden, like someone was hitting the door with their knuckles instead of their hand. I froze mid-fold, listening. It was Christmas night, just past midnight, and the snow outside had buried the street in silence. No cars, no footsteps. No reason for anyone to be knocking. The knock came again, harder this time. My heart started racing. I wasn't expecting anyone. No friends, no family. Everyone I knew was either asleep or miles away. I told myself it might be a neighbor needing help. That was the only explanation that made sense. But something felt off. I walked toward the front door slowly, each step heavier than the last. The porch light was off, and when I reached for the switch, my hand hesitated. I didn't know why yet, but part of me didn't want to see what was on the other side. I turned it on anyway. The porch was empty. Snow covered the steps, smooth, untouched. I frowned, leaning closer to the glass, scanning the yard. No one hiding. No movement. It's just the glow of the streetlight reflecting off-white snow. I laughed softly, embarrassed at myself. Then the knocking came again. This time, it wasn't on the door. It was on the wall, inside the house. 3 slow taps, coming from the hallway behind me. Tap, 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 tap. I didn't turn around right away. I stood there, staring at my reflection in the glass, watching my own face go pale. My breath fogged the window, and in that fog, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Another reflection, behind me, too tall to be mine. I spun around. The hallway was empty. The sound had stopped. My heart hammered in my chest as I backed away, my mind racing for explanations. Pipes, heating, anything but what my eyes had just seen. I should have gone upstairs, locked myself in my room, called someone. Instead, I stood there, listening, waiting for the next sound. That was my second mistake, because a voice spoke from the hallway, low and calm. You forgot one. I swallowed hard. Forgot what? There was a pause, long enough for hope to creep back in. Then the voice answered. The gift. For me. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. I felt a pressure in my ears, like the air itself was closing in. I took a step back, then another, until my back hit the front door. I don't have anything for you, said silence. Then soft footsteps, slow, approaching. I didn't wait anymore. I grabbed my keys, yanked the door open, and ran into the snow, barefoot, not stopping until I reached a neighbor's house down the street. I didn't go back inside until morning. When I did, everything looked normal. To normal, no signs of anything wrong, except for one thing. Under the Christmas tree, where my wrapped presents had been, sat a single box, unwrapped it with my name crossed out, and someone else's written underneath. The sound of bells woke me up, and for a moment, I forgot where I was. It was Christmas morning, still dark outside, and the bells sounded distant, like they were coming from down the street. I lay there, listening, confused. We didn't have bells nearby, no church, no decorations that made noise. The sound came again, closer. I sat up, heart pounding, and realized the bells weren't outside. They were inside the house. I slipped out of bed, the floor icy under my feet, and crept toward the hallway. The bells jingled softly, uneven, like they were being carried by someone who didn't walk quite right. Hello? Called. No answer. The smell hit me next. Pine. Cold air. Something else underneath it. Something old. The Christmas tree. Lights in the living room were on, teething, though I was sure I'd turned them off before bed. I stepped into the doorway and stopped. Standing near the tree was a tall figure, dressed in red. Not bright red, dark, faded. The fabric hung wrong, stiff and heavy. Its back was to me, and in its hand was a string of bells. It tilted its head slightly, as if it knew I was there. I couldn't move. My legs refused. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. The bells jingled again, slow and deliberate. I didn't expect you to wake up, it said. The voice was low, too low, not warm, not cheerful, nothing like it should have been. You're not real, I whispered. The figure turned just enough for me to see its face reflected in the glass ornament on the tree. There was no smile, just eyes, watching double quotes. I come every year, said calmly. Most people don't notice. My chest felt tight. Why are you here? It paused. The bells stopped to see who's still listening. The lights flickered violently, and the room seemed to stretch, shadows crawling along the walls. Squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself. When I opened them again, the room was empty. The tree stood silent, the light steady. No bells, no figure. I stood there for a long time, shaking, trying to convince myself I'd dreamed it, until I noticed something new hanging on the tree. A small bell, cold to the touch, and softly ringing. The knock came from the back door. Even though no one should have been outside in the snow, I was halfway through wrapping the last present when I heard it. Not loud, not urgent. It's just a slow, deliberate knock. 1, 2, 3. I froze with the tape still stuck to my fingers. My heart jumped first before my brain could catch up. The back door led straight into the kitchen. No porch, no lights, just a stretch of snow and trees behind the house. And it was Christmas night. I stood there listening, telling myself it was nothing. Maybe a branch, maybe the wind. But the house was too quiet for that excuse to feel real. The heater hummed softly. The clock on the wall ticked too loud. Then the knock came again. This time, closer, heavier. I felt my stomach tighten. I hadn't told anyone I'd be here alone. Not friends, not neighbors, just my parents, and they were 3 hours away at my grandparents' house. I was house-sitting while they stayed overnight. I walked slowly toward the kitchen, every step careful, like the floor might betray me with a creak. The lights were off, but the glow from the Christmas tree spilled faint colors down the hallway. Red, green, blue, flickering shadows along the walls. I stopped a few feet from the door. Another knock, right at eye level. I whispered, "Who is it?" The words felt stupid the moment they left my mouth. No answer. I leaned closer, peering through the small window in the door. First, I saw nothing but darkness. Then my eyes adjusted. Snow falling thick and slow. The outline of the fence. Trees swaying gently, and someone standing just out of reach of the porch light. I couldn't see their face, just a shape, tall. Still, my pulse started pounding in my ears. I took a step back. That's when the person moved closer. It's just enough for the light to catch part of their face. They were smiling, too wide. "Sorry to bother you, okay?" Man's voice said through the door. Calm, friendly. "My car broke down. Can I use your phone?" Something felt wrong immediately. Not just fear, instinct. The kind that makes your body tense before your mind explains why. "There's a gas station down the road," I said. My voice shook, no matter how hard I tried to steady it. He tilted his head slightly, like he was listening, carefully, studying me. "I already tried," he said. "But they're closed. It's Christmas." That was true, and I hated that it was true. "I can call for you," I offered. "Just tell me the number." His smile faded. "I'd rather come in," he said. A chill ran through me. I shook my head without thinking. "I'm not opening the door." For a moment, he didn't react, just stood there, staring at me through the glass. Snow gathered on his shoulders. His breath fogged the window. Then he laughed, soft, short. "I thought you might say that," he said. My chest tightened. "What does that mean?" He raised his hand slowly and pressed his palm against the glass. His fingers were pale, too pale. I noticed then that he wasn't wearing gloves. "I've been watching this house all evening," he said. "I know you're alone." My breath caught. That was my mistake, because the moment I reacted, his eyes changed, like he'd been waiting for that confirmation. Like the smile had been a test. I stepped back quickly, my mind racing. Phone. I needed my phone. Turned toward the counter and the lights went out. The house dropped into darkness, except for the Christmas tree glowing weakly in the living room. I heard the back door handle jiggle once, twice, then stop. I stood there, barely breathing, my heart hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it through the walls. The silence stretched. My hands shook. Then my phone buzzed. The sound made me jump. I looked down. A text from an unknown number. "Your lights just went out." Stared at the screen, my blood turning cold. Another text followed immediately. "I can still see you." I didn't understand how that was possible yet, but I was about to. I heard someone walking upstairs, even though the house was supposed to be empty. The sound was slow, careful, like whoever it was didn't want to be heard. One step, then another. The floor creaked softly above my head, right over the living room. I stopped breathing. The Christmas movie was still playing on the TV, its cheerful music suddenly feeling wrong. Too loud, too happy. I grabbed the remote and muted it. The silence that followed felt heavy, pressing down on my chest. I listened. Another step. Then it stopped, too suddenly. I stood up, a heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I told myself it was the house settling. Old houses always make noise in the winter. That excuse sounded weak, even to me. I was house-sitting for my uncle while he and his wife were out of town for Christmas. They lived in a large, 2-story house on the edge of a small town in Vermont. No close neighbors, trees, snow, and darkness. I had agreed to stay there for a few nights to watch over the place, feed the dog, keep the lights on. Simple. I was alone, completely, at least. I thought I was. Another creak echoed from upstairs, this time closer to the staircase. My stomach dropped. I glanced at the dog bed by the fireplace, empty. The dog was staying with my uncle's sister for the holidays, so it wasn't paws. It was footsteps, human ones. I whispered, "Hello?" My voice sounded thin, fragile. No answer. I stood there, staring at the staircase. The hallway light upstairs was off, leaving the top of the stairs swallowed in shadow. The Christmas tree lights reflected faintly off the banister, creating long, warped shapes that moved when I shifted. I told myself not to go up there, but I did anyway. Each step creaked under my weight as I climbed slowly, my hand gripping the railing. My pulse was so loud I was sure it would give me away if someone was really up there. Halfway up, I heard it again, a soft exhale right above me. I froze. Someone was breathing, not heavy, not rushed, just calm, controlled. I didn't understand why. That scared me more than anything else, but it did. "Is someone there?" I asked, my voice barely louder than a whisper. The breathing stopped. The silence felt wrong, like the house itself was holding its breath with me. I took another step, then another, until I reached the top of the stairs. The hallway stretched. Out in front of me, 3 bedroom doors, 1 bathroom, all closed, all dark. I stood there, listening. Nothing. I let out a shaky breath, convincing myself I was overreacting. That's when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The guest bedroom door was slightly open. I knew I had closed it earlier. I remembered doing it. I even remembered the click of the latch. I took a step toward it. The floor creaked and the door moved, just a little, like someone had leaned against it. From the other side, I stopped immediately. My heart slammed into my ribs. I stared at the gap, watching the darkness inside, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. I reached out slowly and pushed the door open the rest of the way. The room was empty. Bed neatly made. Curtains still. No sign that anyone had been there. I stood in the doorway, my muscles tense, scanning every corner. That's when I saw the footprints. They were faint, but visible against the thin layer of dust on the hardwood floor. Bare feet, small, leading from the doorway to the closet. And stopping there, my mouth went dry. I hadn't gone into that room since I arrived. No one else should have either. I backed out of the room slowly, and turned toward the bathroom across the hall. The light switch was flipped on. It hadn't been on before. The bathroom door was closed. A soft sound came from inside water. The sink was running. I stood there, froze in my mind, screaming at me to leave, to run, to get out of the house. But my body refused to move. I reached for the door handle. It was warm. I pulled my hand back instinctively. My heart was racing now, my breaths coming shallow and fast. Someone had been in there recently, very recently, I whispered. I'm calling the police. The water shut off. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then the bathroom door slowly began to open, inch by inch. I stumbled backward as a figure stepped into the hallway. A woman, pale, thin, her hair hung in damp strands around her face. She wore an old nightgown, yellowed with age. I didn't recognize her. She looked at me with tired eyes and said, "You're not supposed to be here." My legs felt weak. "This is my uncle's house," I said. "Who are you?" She smiled faintly. "He said that too," she whispered. Before I could ask what she meant, I stepped back into the bathroom and closed the door. I stood there, shaking, staring at the door. My mind raced with possibilities. Squatter, prank, hallucination. I forced myself forward and yanked the door open. The bathroom was empty. No woman, no running water, no open window, nothing. But something else caught my attention. The mirrored dot written in the fog was a single sentence. "Christmas is when they come back." My breath hitched. I didn't remember the mirror being foggy. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed downstairs with all the lights on, my phone clutched in my hand, waiting for morning. Nothing else happened. The next day, my uncle returned. I told him everything, every sound, every detail. He went quiet when I mentioned the footprints and the NIGHTGOWN. He hesitated before finally saying, "The previous owner's wife died in that bathroom. It's Christmas Eve. She wandered the house before they found her." I asked him why he hadn't. Told me he looked away and said, "I didn't think she'd come back this year." I haven't stayed in that house since. But every Christmas, I wake up in the middle of the night, convinced I hear slow footsteps above me, and I still don't know if she thought I was the intruder, or if she was warning me about something else that still lives there. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.